Chapter 8 to 14. 1 year passed in a breeze. Everyone was training enthusiastically. Goku and Piccolo were sparring in the air, due to the few potholes they had made in their earlier spar and gotten an earful reproach from King Kai. Gohan and Krillin were sparring on the ground since they were unable to make any visible damage to the planet, and as such, King Kai did not disallow them from sparring on the ground. The rest were refining their fighting techniques. The big metal cylinder-shaped house's door slowly opened as white gas sizzled out from the door's edge. A limping Raditz dressed in his torn rag-like clothes that could barely cling onto his body slowly made his way out from the doorway. Ah! That was intense. I should really be careful in the future. If not for King Kai having a healing skill, I would probably have to rely on a senzu bean. But if I didn't have one, I would really be so screwed. Raditz made a strong mental note in his mind to not carelessly train with the gravity chamber. Earth did not have a rejuvenation chamber like Frisia Force has. If he really were to get badly injured, he could potentially need a year to heal. All that time which could have been used to train. Or he might actually get killed if an enemy were to appear. Not to mention, Raditz was mesmerized by the Dragon Ball world and had the wish to travel in space. There might not be much danger on Earth, but in space, who knew what might exist there and what hostile aliens might appear. The first time he used the gravity chamber, he had also been too eager to train and severely injured himself over and over until he exhausted all his senzu beans. But at least, when training at King Kai's place or at Kami's place was fine, since both King Kai and Kami had healing skills. Learning a healing skill would do wonders. Raditz thought eagerly. After limping towards King Kai's house for quite a long time, King Kai finally noticed Raditz's bad condition and hurriedly ran up to him. Ah! Raditz, you need to be careful when you train. If you were to cripple your limbs, then even my healing skill will be useless. King Kai reprimanded Raditz, spitting out a mouthful of saliva which plastered Raditz's face. Hey, alright. Hurry and heal me before I croak. Raditz hurriedly reminded King Kai to heal him first before he loses all his strength. Oh right. King Kai lightly patted his head and hurriedly pointed his pair of antennae at Raditz. Pururu. A gentle light flicked in front of King Kai's antennae and healed up Raditz's injuries after a few moments. There you go. All nice and patched up. Ha ha ha. King Kai laughed. Apparently he made a joke as if he patched up Raditz like patching a piece of cloth. Thanks King Kai. Since you're patching up, can you also make me a few dozens of training clothes? Raditz asked naughtily. You really know how to work me to death. King Kai gave a wry smile as he started materializing one set of clothes after another. After an hour, a cheerful Raditz packing away over 20 sets of training clothes into a storage capsule, with a huffing and puffing King Kai lying on the ground with beads of sweat covering his face. That's right. King Kai, it's been a year. When are the Saiyans arriving on Earth? Raditz, after putting on his new clothes, he remembered King Kai had said that the Saiyans would be arriving in a year. Because Raditz remembered from the story of how King Kai forgot to add in the time needed to traverse the Snake Way, Goku arrived late and lots of his friends ended up dying. Although it was a necessity in order for the story to advance to the Namek Saga, which only happened because Piccolo died and caused Kami to also die, so the Dragon Balls disappeared. Yes. That's right, it has already been a year. Oh. How did I forget? Good thing you reminded me. Let me take a look. King Kai lightly patted his head and then he closed his eyes and his antennae shook slightly. Achum. They didn't head to Earth. They had just traveled to a small planet that was in the direction of Earth. Raditz, didn't you say the Saiyans were coming to Earth? King Kai asked in confusion. He had calculated their arrival time to be a year from spacespod speed and the distance to Earth. But it turned out that they didn't even have the intention to fly to Earth. Achum. I did not expect that. No, that should be the case since my intervention. The events aren't progressing according to the original story now. Did Vegeta only move out immediately because he heard about the Dragon Balls being able to grant any wish? It seems Vegeta does not see me of any value at all. That's right, he didn't even try to use the Dragon Balls to wish for Raditz's revival nor his father, or the whole Saiyan race. Ha! But according to the old Raditz's memories, Vegeta is very vengeful. Even if he lowers my priority, he will certainly come to Earth sooner or later. Meanwhile, Nappa and Vegeta were munching on some grilled foreign alien limbs. Vegeta, according to Planet Guel's starting position, it should have only taken Raditz a bit more than a year to arrive on Earth. Which means he should have arrived on Earth a year ago. But it's been a year since we lost contact with Raditz. We agreed to meet up here on this planet with Raditz and Kakarot. Even if his scouter broke, it shouldn't be a problem for Raditz to get here on time. Do you think he's in trouble? Nappa said. That useless radish boy. If he can't even take care of a low-level planet, he can just die for all I can care. Vegeta sneered. But Vegeta. Although Raditz is weaker than me, his battle power is 1,500. It's not something a low-level planet can produce. If Raditz is in trouble, we should go and help him. Nappa said. It seems unlike Vegeta, Nappa still cared about his teammates. It will take us more than a year to fly to Earth from here. If he can't even handle the planet alone a year ago, then he won't survive until we arrive on Earth. Vegeta said indifferently as he continued munching on his food. If Raditz is dead, we have to get revenge for him. He's one of us few Saiyans that managed to survive the calamity. Nappa clenched his fist. There's no problems in getting revenge. But I can't be bothered to go all my way there just to get revenge. Let's take up the 3 planets closest to Earth after we finish taking on planet Kawada. Vegeta intended to take on the missions to clear out the 3 planets closest to Earth and only then go to Earth, as if it was an insignificant matter to take revenge for Raditz. Planet Kawada. We were originally planning for Raditz and Kakarot to help us clear the planet. Vegeta, won't the takeover be too hard for just the 2 of us? Nappa asked. They had originally sent Raditz to Earth to recruit Kakarot just because planet Kawada was quite strong. Once the 4 of them transformed into great apes, they would be able to take care of the planet. It doesn't matter, we don't need trash that can't even take care of a low-level planet. With my 180,000 battle power once I've transformed, I'll just need your assistance and we can take down the Kawada leader. Vegeta said arrogantly. Apparently, he had struck off Goku, Kakarot, and Raditz from his mental list as they couldn't even survive on a low-level planet like Earth. King Kai had taken another look and found out that the Saiyans were on their way to planet Kawada. From the looks of it, even if the Saiyans were to immediately set off to Earth after they finished taking over planet Kawada, it would take them at least 2 years. And from their current behavior, it did not seem like they were planning on going to Earth anytime soon. As such, a conservative estimate would be that they had at least 3 years if not more until the Saiyans could potentially arrive. They did not know the reason why the Saiyans were not going to Earth, but everyone was happy with the outcome. It probably is because Vegeta seems me as trash and has no regard for me at all. Without their knowledge of Dragon Balls, he has no motivation at all to come over to Earth. Well, he should still come sooner or later. Then, because I got rid of the transmitter in the scouter and have disconnected it from my former teammates, neither Vegeta nor Frieza will have learned of the Dragon Balls. Does that mean we won't have much more danger ahead? Although both Earth and Planet Namek are in Frieza Force's database, only Earth have prospects to take over. Planet Namek's climate is too harsh and they won't have any interest in that planet, unless they happen to find information about the Dragon Balls. But that seems unlikely. Raditz pondered in his mind. Then I only know that means we only need to watch out for Vegeta. He's more likely to take the mission to take over Earth than the others in Frieza Force. After Namek Saga is Frieza Saga, so I can kind of skip them. After that is Android Saga. But they might be weaker since there won't be any Frieza or King Cold arriving on Earth. Ahem. Does that mean Cell Saga is going to be weaker? But Cell will probably still arrive from a parallel timeline. I'm not sure if the future timeline with Trunks? I'm not even sure what will happen with Nappa and Vegeta now with the current events flowing in this direction. This should be the main timeline. Only when the time machine travels back in time will a new timeline be created. That means future Trunks could potentially not exist. Well, there might not be any alternative timelines if I can manage this well. Since I know what will happen, I can be prepared for it. Raditz clenched his fist and felt the strong power flowing through his arm and hand. After all the training during these past years, 1 year in hyperbolic time chamber and 1 year on King Kai's planet, Raditz finally had some confidence in himself. Maybe Raditz wasn't as useless and talentless as he thought. The Saiyans were indeed incredibly talented fighters. As long as we can handle the Android Saga, and prepare for Goku's heart disease, there won't a reason for the future timeline to travel back in time. But this is quite confusing. I'm not really sure if this is really the main timeline now. Since future Trunks travel to the story's timeline, it means that future Trunks comes from the main timeline and the story's timeline was actually just a branched timeline created from traveling in the time machine. So, if I'm in an alternative timeline and defeat the androids, will this become the main timeline, because there won't be a reason for the future to travel back in time then? Ah! My god. I give up. I'll just play by the ear and take care of things as it comes. If future Trunks or another future guy comes, then that is that. But for now, I should think about Frieza and Vegeta. Raditz grabbed his head and felt as if he had smashed his head from all the tumultuous thinking. What's wrong, big brother? Goku suddenly popped up right in front of Raditz. Oh, Goku. No, it's nothing. What's up? Raditz noticed the whole group had gathered around and asked. We have learned pretty much everything from King Kai already, so after talking a bit, we have decided to return back to Earth and continue training there. Although Krillin and the rest haven't managed to learn Spirit Bomb nor Kaioken yet, they have understood how to train in it and you, me, Tien Shinhan and Piccolo can help them in learning Kaioken as well. It's been a whole year since we left Earth. I'm sure Chi-Chi, Master Roshi, Bulma and everyone else are missing us as well. Come on, let's go back to Earth together. Goku said with a smile. Alright, let's do that. Raditz said with a wry smile after seeing the whole group had relaxed after knowing the danger had passed for now. There is so much more danger ahead, yet if the group relaxes already just at the start of the story. Who knows what will happen in the future? Finally you're leaving. Do you know just how much effort I have to put in to cook for the whole lot of you? I barely had any time to rest. King Kai shouted. Oh please. I only drink water, it's actually those 3 Saiyans that are eating more than 10 times the rest of the group in total. Piccolo said with a playful smile. After spending a year together with everyone, even though he and the rest were enemies from the past. The enmity had cooled down and now, even Piccolo was comfortable enough to make jokes with the group. That's right. That's right. The rest of the group with only normal human stomachs chimed in. I used to eat normally, but how come I now eat so much like daddy? Gohan asked with a confused expression. That's right, Raditz, you should know more about Saiyans than us. How come Goku and you have such a big appetite? Just how do you guys even manage to stuff in food 10 times your size? Krillin asked after sizing up both Goku and Raditz from head to toe. I guess it's because our real forms are just gigantic. Raditz pondered aloud. Thinking if it was because of their great ape transformations which were the reason for their near bottomless stomachs. Gigantic? Real forms? Yamcha and Krillin stuttered and looked at each other's eyes as if they were mentally conversing with each other. Well, I might as well explain the great ape transformation for Goku. Lest he gets so shocked he loses all his fighting will like in the story when he saw Vegeta transform. Raditz looked at the confused Goku and thought. During full moon, we Saiyans can transform into great apes, will grow into gigantic apes around 20 meters tall and our battle power will be multiplied by 10. Raditz said. And multiplied by 10? That's like 10 times Kaioken, but without the negative effect of having our bodies overloaded. Damn it. Right now 2x Kaioken is my limit. Piccolo gnashed his teeth. Saiyans had naturally stronger bodies, that is why Goku was barely able to use 3x Kaioken. Essay, Raditz. Does the Great Ape transformation have any side effects? Or negative effects? Both Yamcha and Krillin said in sync as if they had prepared a duet ahead of time. It seems Goku's Great Ape transformation had left a very deep impression on them. Tien Shinhan and Chiatsu looked confused at the duo. Yes, unfortunately, most low-class Saiyan warriors practically loses all consciousness while transformed, while mid-class warriors are half-conscious. But with training it's possible for a few to fully retain their consciousness and be in full control while transformed. Elite-class warriors usually gain full control after just a few transformations. Raditz explained just what the old Raditz's memories knew. It was much more comprehensive than what he had learned while he was a Dragon Ball fan and had scoured everywhere for information about Saiyans. But that wasn't weird, after all, Raditz is a real bona fide Saiyan warrior. Then Goku is a low-class warrior. What about you and Gohan? Krillin asked after remembering that Raditz had said Goku's battle power was really low at birth and had been sent away as an infiltration baby. He also remembered the time he had witnessed Goku transform during the World Martial Arts Tournament during their childhood while causing mindless destruction. That's right, I'm a mid-class warrior so there isn't too much problem for me to transform. But the first few times a Saiyan transform is quite problematic and usually, they are supervised so they can get used to their transformation. Raditz looked at Gohan and continued, but I'm not sure how to class Gohan since he's a half-human half-Saiyan. It's likely that with half his blood being human, he will be half-conscious just like mid-class warrior's transformation. But that is from Raditz's experiences from transforming. Now that I've taken over, it shouldn't be too much difference, right? I do have his memories, but just in case I should still practice transforming a bit. Raditz thought and made a mental note. That's great. Then Gohan can achieve the same as 10x Kaioken after learning to control his transformation. Krillin shouted excitedly. Thud. Suddenly, the group heard a loud sound as if something heavy fell to the ground. The group turned their heads and noticed Goku was on his knees, his face one of horror and shock. Gee, Grandpa. I killed Grandpa. Goku stuttered while breathing heavily. When he was a child he had always been careless and easygoing. He was feeling extreme self-blame and regret. If only he had heeded his grandpa's warnings to not look up at the moon during full moon. Goku. Krillin and Yamcha had learned that Goku's grandpa had been stomped to death by a monster in Impauzu. They had already suspected that the monster was Goku since his grandpa had specifically told Goku that the monster would only appear during a full moon and that Goku was not allowed to go out at night with full moon and look at the moon. Dad. Gohan looked worriedly at Goku and slightly pulled Goku's sleeve. Well, I'm not supposed to know about Goku's life. Raditz scratched the back of his head helplessly. He naturally understood what Goku was feeling, but he didn't really know what to do so he could only look as the rest of the group comforted Goku. After a long while, Goku was feeling better albeit still blaming himself. I'll look for fortune teller Baba. Goku said and jumped off King Kai's planet and landed on the tail of Snake Way. In no time, Goku had left the rest of the group behind and rushed off to go back to Earth. Well, it's a good thing the Saiyans died out. Otherwise. With 4,000 great apes. Krillin mumbled while imagining 4,000 great apes rampaging. Piccolo glanced at Krillin and turned his head away. With his superior hearing, it wasn't weird that he could hear Krillin's low-sounded mumbles. An oblivious Raditz gathered the rest of the group and handed out a few storage capsules containing food for Gohan, Yamcha, Krillin, Tien Shinhan, and Chiatsu. It wasn't like they really had to run and fly with their lives on the line to traverse the million-kilometers-long Snake Way in a single day just so they won't starve and become too weak to run fast and then truly starve to death. Well, then I'll head back first. You guys can take your time. Since Goku disappeared, I'll leave you guys to take care of Gohan. Raditz reminded them to take care of the 5-year-old Gohan and flew away. Me too. Piccolo said curtly and also flew away at high speed. Well, let's take our time. It's not like we're in a rush and the food Raditz gave us is enough to feed us for a month. Krillin said with a wry smile. They were the weakest in the group and didn't have enough ki to fly the whole Snake Way so they decided to just take their time and jog at a stable speed. 3x Kaioken. Raditz shouted and pushed the Kaioken technique to amplify his ki by 3x. Because his body was the strongest from the start, and having trained in the gravity chamber for 4 months in the hyperbolic time chamber. And then later on King Kai's planet, he trained in the gravity chamber for 2 months. Raditz's body was overflowing with abundant ki, he had no problem flying the whole Snake Way and waste some ki here and there and still not be out of breath. What a nice feeling. Raditz closed his eyes and felt the overwhelming ki course through his body. Unfortunately, he did not have his scouter with him which he had left it with Bulma to study. But either way, his scouter was a first-generation scouter with a max reading of 24,000 battle power. He wouldn't be able to read his own battle power once he used Kaioken to the limit. The only thing Raditz could do was hope Bulma managed to research a much more advanced scouter on her own after she analyzed his scouter. After a few hours, Raditz reached King Enma's office and saw Cammy waving at him. Cammy. Raditz smiled, it had been a whole year since he last saw this old man. Raditz. What's going on with Goku? Why does he look so devastated? Cammy asked. Ugh. It's like this. Raditz gave a simple brief over what happened. I see. Then I believe Goku is looking for fortune teller Baba because she can contact his grandpa. Cammy nodded his head. Afterward, Cammy brought Raditz back to the lookout by teleporting them. This is just like Goku's instant transmission, except Cammy doesn't need to lock onto another person's ki. Instead, it seems Cammy is able to freely teleport. What an envious technique. Raditz looked enviously at Cammy. Cammy, can I learn your teleportation skill? Raditz asked in an attempt. This technique is called Kai Kai. Unfortunately, it's extremely hard to learn and places extremely heavy burdens on the user on each use. Even with your current ki, it won't even be enough to use it even once. Not to mention the high requirement on the spirit. Cammy shook his head. Cammy, then how come you can use Kai Kai? Raditz asked curiously. Cammy only had a few hundred units in battle power. It was obviously that he was much weaker than Raditz. Because I'm the guardian of Earth, this position counts as a minor deity and comes with some special privileges such as being able to use such an advanced technique like Kai Kai, which is usually only used by gods or extremely strong people. Cammy explained. Alright, I got some business to take care of. See you later, Cammy. Raditz waved goodbye to Cammy and jumped down from the lookout. Too bad King Kai's healing skill only works on others and is quite hard to learn. Guess I'll just have to rely on senzu beans then. Raditz shook his head. Once he learned that King Kai's healing skill was very hard to learn and that it wouldn't even work on the user himself. He gave up on trying to learn it. Who knew how many months he would need to learn it? Even learning the spirit bomb had taken Raditz half a year. Raditz flew down and landed on Corinne Tower. Hey, Corinne. You have any senzu beans? Raditz asked. Raditz. Sure, I got 6 beans. After I learned about the Saiyans, I've been trying hard to plant more senzu beans. There should be another 3 beans in another half a year. How's everyone's training going? Corinne, the little cat sage, smiled and threw a pouch filled with senzu beans to Raditz. Very well. All of us have definitively become much stronger. And we've also learned Kaioken, King Kai's special ki amplifying technique. I believe we can handle Vegeta and Nappa. But I'm not sure when they'll arrive though. Raditz talked a bit about their training at King Kai. Alright, I got some stuff to do. See you later, Corinne. Raditz waved his hand and flew away. Let's head over to Capsule Corporation. I'll need the moon projector in my spacespod, or if Dr. Brief or Bulma can make a miniature projector for me to bring along. Raditz muttered and flew toward West City. After half an hour, Raditz arrived in Capsule Corporation. There were some usefulness and conveniences with ki sense, like now, Raditz simply sensed for Dr. Brief's ki and quickly moved toward him. Otherwise, with the Capsule Corp being as big as a village, it would take one forever to really find the Brief family. Or waste time waiting for them after asking them to come with the intercom. Hi, Dr. Brief. Raditz raised his palm and greeted Dr. Brief. Oh. Well, if it isn't Raditz. It's been quite a long time since you last visited. Ha ha ha. Your spacespod is indeed made with very advanced technologies. Dr. Brief began blabbering about all his discoveries. Wait. I know you've reaped quite a lot of advanced alien technologies. Have you finished making a spaceship with a gravity chamber? I also need a moon projector like the one installed on my spacepod. Raditz quickly interjected before he was flooded by Dr. Brief's long talk about science. Yes, since you had raised that topic last time, though I did not manage to make a spaceship with a gravity chamber last time and could only make a separate gravity chamber in a short week. But now I've spent 4 months and made the finest spaceship with a disco dance floor and high-quality speakers for the best music experiences. Dr. Brief said with enthusiasm and pride. I don't remember telling you to add any disco or speakers for music. Raditz said dumbfoundedly. No, you did not. But I wanted to make the most phenomenal spaceship. Dr. Brief said with a wide smile. Yeah, right. Raditz mentally rolled his eyes but did not tell him off. After all, he was receiving free work and stuff. Who else would he look for if he wanted some highly advanced technologies applied if not Dr. Brief or Bulma? The moon projector in your spacepod projects a very realistic moon holograph and it even generates Blutz waves just like the real moon. I thought you would like a handheld version of the moon projector, so I also made one for you. Dr. Brief said while rummaging through his pocket and brought out a small cube half the size of a hand. Look. Dr. Brief said and tapped the top layer of the cube. Soon after, a big full moon appeared on ceiling of the room. Alright. I got it. Raditz barely saw the full moon through the edge of his vision and hurriedly tapped the top layer of the cube before pocketing it. Phew. Just what would have happened if I transformed here? Raditz muttered. Dr. Brief then brought the impatient Raditz to the spaceship and explained all the functions in the spaceship. After listening to Dr. Brief talking for 2 hours, Raditz finally turned the spaceship into a capsule while muttering, "Damn, he added so many useless stuff," which is actually draining half of its fuel. Later on, Raditz ate a wholesome banquet alone and filled up a few storage capsules with water and food. He also got his hands of a few made droids which could come in handy. Nice, they can cook thousands of various dishes and do all kinds of chores. Raditz smiled. Even the Earth here was so much more advanced in technologies than the Earth he came from before he transmigrated into the Dragon Ball world. Although they had started making robots, they were nowhere near in making them as skilled and autonomous as these made droids. Since Raditz was curious about his current battle power and his maximum battle power after pushing the Kaioken to his limit, Raditz found Bulma's key and ran to her. "Hey Bulma." Raditz greeted casually. "Oh. Raditz. You're back. Does that mean everyone is back as well?" Bulma said with a smile. "Nah, only me, Goku and Piccolo are back. The rest will take a few more days to arrive back on Earth." Raditz made an estimate based on the rest of the group's key level. "Oh, why didn't Goku come greet me with you?" Bulma pouted. Well, you see." Raditz explained how devastated Goku became after learning that he was the culprit that stomped his grandpa to death. Sigh. "I always suspected that to be the case after seeing Goku's transformation when he was a kid." Bulma shook her head. "Anyway, I came to see how your research on my scouter is going. My scouter is a first-generation scouter with a reading limit at 24,000 battle power. If possible, I would like you to make a better scouter to read much higher battle power." Raditz explained his needs. Although he had learned key sense, but he could only make a comparison of another person's key compared to his own key and base their power gap by the disparity between their key. Although it works well, but if I were to meet Frieza, I'll be screwed. His key will increase tremendously each time he transforms. Honestly, I have no confidence in beating Frieza. In fact, I'm quite happy with the current development of events. We might not even have to cross Frieza. But the android saga is still quite a big enigma. They can either be weaker than in the storyline or the same. So I will need to at least be Super Saiyan to survive. The biggest problem is that they have infinite energy, so we'll need to quickly overpower them to win. So about the ascended Super Saiyan level should do. Raditz thought. Yes, the scouter was quite crudely made. Here is the new scouter I made. It's also in universal language and the reading limit should be much higher since this genius girl, improved it. Bulma stuck out her nose proudly and handed over a new scouter to Raditz. "Thanks. You're the best. And you don't need to worry about the Saiyans. With our training at King Kai's place, we'll easily beat their asses red. And for some reason, they seem to be taking a detour to take over a few planets before they plan to come here. So it'll take them a few more years before they come to Earth," Raditz said before running out of the building. Poof! Raditz pressed the button on the spaceship capsule and threw it forward. He opened the hatch and boarded the ship. Bulma picked up another scouter from her room and put it on before tapping the button on the side. Beep! 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 2,000 battle power. Raditz only got a bit stronger from his initial 1,500. How can he say they have gotten stronger? Vegeta has a battle power of 18,000. We're screwed. Raditz must have turned mental from worry. Bulma threw away the scouter and squatted down while she clutched her head in panic. Meanwhile, Elijah Raditz had launched up the spaceship. Little did he know that Bulma was panicking because he had suppressed his ki. While looking at the spaceship flying out of Earth, Raditz stood near the window and looked out. He. Although I'm not the first person flying into space, it sure is amazing to be able to fly in space like this. This spaceship is much more advanced than those spaceships from my Earth. Raditz smiled and took in the view. The blue planet called Earth shrunk into a small ball before disappearing from his view. I might not be so talented to be able to transform into Super Saiyan so early like Bardock or Goku. But I know that the S-cells will increase as a Saiyan increases their battle power. I just need to increase my battle power to a few million before it's a sure thing for me to transform into a Super Saiyan. Just like how Goten and Trunks could transform into Super Saiyans as kids, it is precisely because they had so many S-cells that they could naturally transform into a Super Saiyan without any effort. Raditz smiled. As a Super Dragon Ball fan, how could he have not dreamed of becoming a Super Saiyan with golden hair? Feeling his dream in his reach, he started to get impatient. The spaceship flew for a few hours before landing on a desolate planet. This spaceship's speed is awesome. It practically flew what would have taken my spacepod a month to fly in just a few hours. Raditz exclaimed happily. Although he did not experience it personally. But from the old Raditz's memories, he had learned that a typical mission would require him to hibernate in the spacespod anywhere from a few months to a year or two depending on the distance he needed to fly. After comparing the two's speed, he was naturally ecstatic with his new spaceship. After all, who wants to fly for years while sleeping, right? Raditz cursed Frisia Force for their inhumane mass-produced spacepods for a bit before opening the hatch and alighted from the spaceship. Alright, let's try the Great Ape transformation. I got to make sure I'll be fine. Vegeta will definitely use Great Ape transformation once he's unable to win against us. With Goku's tail gone, only me and Gohan can transform. Gohan might not have control over his transformation, but with his half-human blood, it shouldn't be hard for him to regain some reason, just like in the story where he played a big part in them defeating Vegeta. Raditz pondered and pressed a button on the spaceship and turned it into a capsule. How convenient. Raditz smiled and put away the small capsule. But it's not good to depend too much on chance. Since the story here have diverged from the storyline already, I should try to gain full control over my transformation. Of course, the best turn of event is to pummel Vegeta and cut off his tail before he even manages to transform. But I still should try out my transformation. After taking over Raditz's body, I'm not sure if things will be the same and leave me half-conscious and somewhat able to control my transformation. Raditz muttered. Besides, who wants to cut off their own finger or limbs? My tail is just like another limb for me. Not to mention the pain from cutting off one's limb. I got to be crazy if I want to cut off my own tail. So it's necessary for me to have some control over my transformation. But a simple matter like this shouldn't be a problem for Shinron, if I simply wished for full control over my transformation. I'll leave it as my backup plan if I fail to gain control over my transformation. Raditz thought. Okay, let's try out this little cube. Raditz withdrew a small cube and tapped the top before throwing it a distance away. A full moon suddenly appeared in the dark sky. Raditz turned his head up and stared at the full moon in the sky nervously. Oh shit. I forgot to remove my clothes. Raditz was no longer wearing his spacesuit with ultra-stretchable features and only some normal and sturdy training clothes King Kai had made for him. Although they were sturdy, it would still be impossible for the clothes to stay intact after Raditz transforms into a 20-meter giant great ape. Ba bump. Ba bump. Raditz felt his heart beating harder and stronger with each heartbeat. Ba bump. Ba bump. Ba bump. His heart beat faster and faster. Suddenly, Raditz's body bloated up and just like a balloon, his body swelled up like crazy and grew larger at a visible speed. His clothes stretched beyond its limits and broke into rags and fell down to the ground. Growl. So this is how it feels like to transform into a great ape, Raditz growled as he grew bigger and bigger. Dark brown fur covered his naked body, his eyes turned red, his jaws protruded forward. Soon, sharp carnivorous white teeth covered his jaws. Raditz was prepared and waited for the moment he would lose his consciousness as he watched his own transformation continue. After a few more moments, a fully grown 20-meter-tall great ape stood on the desolate planet all alone. I wonder if it's soon. I already finished my transformation. Raditz muttered as he waited for himself to lose control. Seconds turned into minutes, after waiting for more than 10 minutes. A confused great ape Raditz moved his new and unfamiliar body around. This. Don't tell me I'm so talented just like those elite class warriors. Raditz thought smugly as he got more familiar with his transformed body. But that isn't right. Raditz is clearly one of the lower-tiered mid-class warriors. Alt-hot it matters little once a Scion's battle power exceeds 1,000,000. The amount of S-cells a Scion has at that point renders the innate talent classifications useless. Raditz double-checked the old Raditz memories. Then it means that Raditz's talents changed after I took over his body. Or could it be that my consciousness is much stronger? Because I've merged with Raditz's soul and therefore has his memories? Then it means my soul is much stronger. Or maybe it's a transmigration gift we transmigrators usually receive. Raditz muttered. The large great ape supported its chin with its right palm and tapped his temple slowly with its left hand's forefinger. Since I got full control over my transformation. What if I use Kaioken? Will 2x Kaioken mean 20x my base battle power? Raditz thought excitedly. Raditz hurriedly tried to use Kaioken in his transformed state. After a few tries of failure, he gave up. I'm still too clumsy. I'll need to spend some more time familiarizing myself with my new form. I need to be as agile as I am in my normal state. Raditz grasped the problem. That's fine, I have not urgent business to take care of. And I already prepare enough food for 6 months. Raditz smiled and started practice in his transformed state. 2 months passed. Raditz would train in his transformed state once in a while. The transformation gave Raditz 10x his power, but it also required a lot of energy to perform the transformation as well as sustaining it. Each time he finished his training in his transformed state, Raditz would be severely weakened and needed plenty of rest. He only had 6 senzu beans and couldn't afford to squander them just to recover from his exhaustion. There were senzu beans capable of healing any physical injuries as long as one was still alive. Since the transformation would take a lot out of him, Raditz would rest for a day before training in the gravity chamber for a few days, then take another day off to rest before he transformed into a great ape again. Although I only managed to train for half a month with my transformation, I can now use 2x Kaioken in my transformation. Too bad the transformation takes too much energy out of me and even caused me to eat more food. The 6 months worth of food ended up being finished in just 2 months. Raditz mumbled. Raditz had measured his battle power before he began training on this planet and after he finished his 2 months training. His battle power was 16,000 before the training. Since Goku's body was weaker than Raditz, his battle power was likely somewhere around 12,000 to 14,000. Now, after the 2 months of training, Raditz's battle power was measured at 42,000. His body had adapted more to higher gravity and he was now able to train in 55x gravity. The reason he is adapting so slowly is that he did not want to waste the few precious senzu beans he had to train as extremely as Goku did on his trip to Namek. Instead, he slowly increased the gravity little by little as he got used to the gravity. I can handle 10x Kaioken in short bursts, but I'll need to take a senzu bean afterward regardless if I get injured or not. So 6x Kaioken is the best for now. That is 6 times 42,000 is equal to 252,000 battle power, not bad at all. And if I were to transform into a great ape, 420,000 battle power, or with 2x Kaioken, 840,000 battle power. Raditz smiled from his accomplishment. Raditz tapped a few buttons on his spaceship and had the ship fly back to Earth. Sigh. Although in my strongest form, my power is closing in on 1,000,000. My actual base battle power is just 42,000. If I want to transform into a Super Saiyan, I need several million of battle power to have enough SLs. Unless I get a chance to become as angry as Goku did when Frieza killed Krillin. Raditz sighed. I remember it was age 767, May 12th. The day that the androids appeared on that island southwest of South City. Right now is age 762, December. About 4.5 years. I have to work hard. But I should also be prepared in case Frieza happens to appear. I'll have to urge Goku, Piccolo, and Gohan to train harder. Raditz said with a wry smile. As for Krillin, Yamcha, Tien Shinhan and Chiatsu. Sorry, I don't have the heart to tell you guys, but I doubt you can do anything more than be cannon fodder. Raditz thought of their training at King Kai. Everyone was so excited and motivated. They trained so hard every day and they smiled so radiantly. After thinking about it for a bit, he decided to let them be and not discourage them. After a few hours, the spaceship closed in on the blue planet called Earth. Is that a giant tree? Raditz's eyes popped out. There was a gigantic tree with green leafy canopy growing out of Earth. Although the tree looked small in comparison to the big Earth, it had grown out of Earth's atmosphere already. Raditz remembered just how gigantic the Tree of Might was in the anime. Oh shit. Will they be alright? I remember Goku was stronger in the Tree of Might movie because he had fought a life and death battle with Vegeta. After a Zenkai he was much stronger. Maybe with 30,000 in battle power. But right now, he might have gotten stronger than he did in the storyline from training at King Kai because he wasted a lot of time on traversing the Snake Way. And also because he borrowed my gravity chamber for a bit. But either way, his battle power won't be even close to 30,000. Raditz started to worry. He had spent 2 months in space. Who knew Wentos had arrived a month ago? If so, could Goku and them still be alive after so long? Seeing how the Tree of Might was still there could only mean that Goku and the rest had not defeated Tolls yet at least. I hope the tree had just grown. The only thing good is that the Tree of Might requires an enormous amount of nutrition. The fact that Earth still looks okay can only mean that it hasn't been too long since the tree was planted. Raditz consoled himself. Raditz went to the control board and steered the spaceship to land near the gigantic tree. What an enormous key. It doesn't feel familiar. Could it be Toes? Just how many fruits of Tree of Might did he eat? After the spaceship approached the tree, Raditz immediately was alarmed from the gigantic ki emitted by someone next to the tree. Is that over 400,000 battle power? Raditz frowned upon comparing the big difference between his ki and the enormous ki that was likely 10x his ki. Soon, Raditz began to sense several weaker ki. That's Goku's ki. Damn it. His ki is so weak it's almost disappearing. Raditz was alarmed and hurriedly opened the hatch even before the spaceship landed and flew toward Goku's ki. Goku. Raditz saw Goku all bloodied lying on a gigantic tree root. Here. Eat a senzu bean. Raditz hurriedly put a senzu bean into Goku's mouth. Crunch, crunch. Gulp. With great effort, Goku chewed the senzu bean and swallowed it. Jay. Thanks, big brother. Goku, now all healed up and energetic, jumped up and thanked Raditz for saving him. Wow. Although I already knew its effects, but seeing it with my own eyes is so much more amazing. Raditz exclaimed after seeing Goku fully recover from his earlier crippled state. Although he had used senzu beans before, it had never been when he was so badly injured and crippled that he could not even move a finger. After all, someone had to feed him the senzu bean if he were in that state. Damn, did Goku's ki just increase by so much? It's already close to mine after his Zenkai. Raditz said inwardly after sensing Goku's ki. What do we have here? Another Saiyan? This time a real Saiyan with his tail intact. An arrogant voice came from beyond. Toes. Goku yelled angrily. The speaker appeared and he looked just like Goku, except his skin color was slightly darker. I didn't think of this earlier. But since Toes appeared, does that mean this is really an alternative timeline? After all, the forums discussed about the paradox of Goku fighting Toes when he's actually in Namek. Now I'm really curious about what would have actually happened if this timeline actually progressed normally. Would Goku really go to Namek then? And if so, what would have happened to Earth? Well, too bad I have no thoughts of dying just so the story will follow the storyline. Raditz frowned as he looked at Toes. Beep. 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 Poof. Toes scanned Raditz's battle power when the scouter suddenly exploded. Raditz. What are you doing here? Did your team decide to take over Earth? Toes asked warily. He himself was a low-class Saiyan warrior and was wary of Raditz, who was a mid-class warrior. It seems that he has no idea his ki is over 10 times mine. That seems normal, I would be the same if I didn't learn Earth's martial arts. Raditz thought silently. Since the scouter broke after scanning Raditz's battle power, it could only mean that his scouter was a first-generation scouter with a max reading limit of 24,000 battle power. Why do you care? Raditz said rudely. Just because you're a mid-class warrior with another mid-class warrior and a super elite class warrior. Don't think you can belittle me now. Toes sneered and took out a red fruit with many bumps on it and started eating it. Maybe he was worried about fighting the Prince Vegeta, super elite in Raditz's former team. Little did he know that Raditz had already defected from Vegeta. Damn it. Can't let him eat more. Otherwise, this will become problematic. Raditz rushed toward Toes. Just as he reached Toes, Toes had just finished eating the fruit of Tree of Might. Raditz could already feel Toes' ki increase. 10x Kaioken. Raditz activated Kaioken and amplified his ki by 10 times before punching Toes. Not bad strength. I might have been in trouble if I did not eat that fruit just now. Toes sneered after blocking Raditz's punch with his forearm. Bam! Bam! Smash! Raditz and Toes flew up into the skies and threw punches and kicks at each other. Although Toes was stronger than Raditz, with Raditz's own experiences of the Saiyan's savage fighting style, Raditz could predict most of Toes' moves. Now that he had refined his own fighting style after learning Earth's martial arts, he no longer fought so crudely with his fighting style relying simply on sheer brute strength. Raditz punched and deflected Toes' attacks over and over. But due to the disparity in ki, Raditz could not dish out any real damage to Toes. Damn it. I can't hold on much longer with 10x Kaioken if this continues. Come on. My body, you can handle 11x Kaioken. Raditz pushed his Kaioken further to amplify his ki to 11 times, while at the same time clenching his teeth from the pain of overloading his body. Go go go. You can do it, big brother. Goku was cheering at the side. Ugh. Why are you just watching me fight? Shouldn't you pincer attack him with me? Raditz complained internally. Though he already knew Goku's personality, which is to fight fairly one-on-one. Raditz clashed again and again with Toga and started to inflict some injuries. Though not severe, small injuries would slowly build up. Toga wasn't an idiot and had tried to pull away from Raditz to eat another fruit of Tree of Might, but Raditz intercepted him. Idiot! Raditz slammed his body into Toga without regard to injuries and snatched the fruit from Toga. Bastard! Toga cursed after seeing Raditz hold the fruit which was originally his. Cough! Raditz coughed out a mouthful of blood. The only reason he had managed to gain the upper hand in the earlier battle was because Raditz was more skilled in fighting than Toga. Now that he let Toga attack him without defending himself just so he could snatch the fruit, Raditz got badly injured. Even though Raditz was using 11x Kaioken, Toga's ki was still higher than Raditz by a notch. If they were to fight simply by brute force, Raditz would have ended up losing the battle. With the fruit, my base power will increase enormously. Then I can easily beat Toga. Raditz thought and opened his mouth. No. If I don't rely on battles to grow stronger, I don't know when I'll reach 1,000,000 in battle power. And most of all, I'm totally missing out on the Zenkais if I don't do battles like this. Raditz suddenly stopped and retracted his hand that held the fruit from entering his mouth and put away the fruit. Ha ha ha. You fool. Toga had been anxious when he saw Raditz about to eat the fruit, but seeing how he hesitated and then put away the fruit. Toga heaved a sigh in relief. Humph. So what if my body breaks? I got plenty of senzu beans. 12 times. No 13x Kaioken. Raditz decided to teach Toga a lesson. Not enough. 14x Kaioken. Sensing that his ki was now larger than Toga, Raditz gave up on defense and started trading blows with Toga. Both sides were coughing blood with each additional blow. See crazy bastard. Toga cursed Raditz, who suddenly turned crazy and decided to trade blows instead of slowly whittling down Toga's strength like he did earlier. Ha! Since I'm taking damage using 14x Kaioken like crazy already. It doesn't make a difference if I trade blows like this. Raditz sneered inwardly. He was no longer in a condition to even speak. In just a few more seconds, and he might croak. Unfortunately, Toga had no idea and could only pit himself against Raditz in a hope of killing Raditz before he himself gets killed. Otherwise, he would do all he can to delay Raditz from landing blows on him. Die. Raditz knew he could not delay anymore and grabbed Toga, giving up on all defense. He concentrated all his ki into his hand and punched with all his might. Boom. Toga got smashed to the ground. A 10-meter large crater formed under his unrecognizable body that had turned into a pulp. Shit. This was not safe at all. Raditz cursed before losing all his strength and fell from the skies. He had believed he would not in any danger with the senzu beans. But he didn't really have any chance to even pull out a senzu bean in that intense battle. Maybe Toga feared that Raditz would pull away and attempt to slowly whittle down his strength again, so he clung onto Raditz with all his might. Big brother. Goku rushed forward and caught Raditz. Ugh. I'm dying. Hurry and feed me a senzu bean. Raditz yelled internally. He could no longer speak. Blood flowed out in a spiderweb-like pattern that covered all over his body. It was as if his whole body were about to shatter apart like glass. Here. It's a senzu bean. Goku pulled out a senzu bean from the pouch inside Raditz's clothes. He had seen Raditz retrieve a senzu bean earlier for him and remembered it. Maybe because Kaioken put a burden on every part of his body, because he had gone way beyond his limit with using the Kaioken, Raditz could not even move his jaw to chew the senzu bean. You can't chew. Let me help you. Maybe because of their brotherly relation, Goku immediately understood Raditz's predicament and helped him chew by moving Raditz's chin up and down and then pushed down the chewed up senzu bean paste down Raditz's throat with his finger. Gulp. Raditz's body had already started convulsing from the extreme pain he experiences from outside and the inside of his body. Even his organs were starting to fail. But as soon as Raditz managed to swallow the senzu bean, as if a ball of energy had appeared in his stomach, the energy split apart and spread all over his body, healing and rejuvenating him all over from inside out. Howl. Raditz felt like he had heard a great ape's howl just now as he slowly stood up and inspected his now fully healed body. Senzu beans are such a miraculous medicine. Raditz muttered and clenched his fist, feeling the strong power flowing through his arm up to his hand. He had not only fully recovered and had his energy replenished, but his strength had also skyrocketed. Such power. Just how much have my battle power increased? Raditz muttered. By his key sense, he was sure his battle power was now over 300,000. Only now could he relax and survey the surrounding. To's subordinates were all dead and their corpses littered around here and there. Raditz saw a naked Gohan sleeping. And further away, Piccolo was slowly making his way over. His left arm was missing, his right arm was covering his left arm's stump that was bleeding purple blood. Why does it seem like Piccolo just has to lose his arm in every battle? At least he is the one who loses his arms the most in the Dragon Ball story. Raditz lampooned inwardly. Ha! Piccolo shouted. Spurt! A bunch of liquid spurted out as a new left arm sprouted out from Piccolo's arm stump. That really looks disgusting, but it's still an enviable ability that makes Namekians almost unkillable once they are strong enough. Raditz complained yet envied in his mind. Piccolo turned even more exhausted after regrowing his left arm and simply sat down instead of continuing walking over to Goku and Raditz. Goku, go take care of everyone, I'll handle the tree. Raditz pointed at the Tree of Might after he sensed everyone's ki. Krillin, Yamcha, Tien Shinhan, and Chiatsu were all alive. Maybe because they were a lot weaker, when they got knocked out they were simply ignored by Toz and his subordinates since they had to fight Piccolo and Goku. Raditz gave a last look at the naked sleeping Gohan and thought, Goku's broken bones. Was he crushed by Gohan's great ape transformation? Since Gohan is a lot stronger now. His battle power might be around 60,000 after transforming. Even if Goku has a battle power of 15,000 then with 3x Kaioken it'll just be 45,000. No wonder he was in such a bad state earlier. Toz, he really likes to mess around. Toz, who had over 400,000 battle power, could easily kill Goku, but instead he just had to play around and make Gohan transform and hurt Goku. Wow, so many fruits. Although most are unripe, there are quite a few ripe ones left. Raditz looked greedily at the fruits hanging on the Tree of Might. What a harvest! 8 ripe ones and 50 unripe fruits. Raditz collected all the fruits and put them in a storage capsule. Then, I should uproot it before it causes more damage to Earth. Although I would love to grow and harvest more fruits, if left unhandled, Earth will really get destroyed. Raditz sighed and flew down to the trunk. 3x Kaioken. Feeling great resistance from the trunk, Raditz simply activated Kaioken and uprooted the gigantic tree with its roots that covered half the Earth's surface. Just as Raditz flew far up in the skies while hugging the gigantic trunk of the Tree of Might, the tree seemingly had a mind of its own and had noticed that it was uprooted. It quickly curled in its roots around its trunk into a ball of roots. Although the roots did not bind Raditz, his surrounding was covered in tree roots. It's sentient. Don't tell me it wants to deal with me after I uprooted it. Raditz was shocked by its actions and stopped flying upwards and stayed suspended in midair. Just as Raditz was ready to deal with the tree roots started drying up and turning all wrinkly before falling apart like dust. Even the trunk crumpled up and turned into dust, which then had the wind blow them away. All that was left after the trunk disappeared was a small seed that was slightly bigger than a senzu bean. This is a seed of the Tree of Might. Raditz's eyes were popping out. He hurriedly caught the seed before it dropped down from the sky. Maybe I can really grow and harvest more fruits in the future. Raditz immediately thought of using the seed when he travels around in space. Raditz turned his head around, looking for his spaceship. After looking around, he found his spaceship had landed a distance away from him. After finding his spaceship, Raditz did not delay and flew toward it and turned it into a capsule and put it away. Everyone has gathered. Raditz sensed that everyone's ki was together and flew toward them. Everyone was fine now and had gathered together. Gohan had woken up and was playing with a purple dragon. It had 2 pairs of horns growing horizontally on the sides of its face and 2 horns growing at the top of its head and a pair of tiny wings that don't seem capable of flying the dragon. Raditz greeted everyone and got thanked by the group for his help in defeating Toz. Afterward, Yamcha threw a capsule that turned into an aircraft. Everyone boarded the aircraft and Yamcha brought every back to each of their own homes. The Icarus, purple dragon alone would fit inside the aircraft, but with everyone already inside, it could only fly along with the aircraft. During the ride on Yamcha's aircraft, Raditz had brought the topic about his gravity chamber, which everyone had seen when they trained at King Kai's place. At first, they had thought it was something exclusive from space. But turns out it was actually manufactured by Dr. Brief. Raditz had told everyone about his gravity chamber on board the aircraft mainly because he wanted Goku, Piccolo, and Gohan to do more gravity training. As for Krillin, Yamcha, Tien Shinhan, and Chiatsu, they had human physiques and would have a much harder time adapting to higher gravity than Saiyans and Namekians. Though Tien Shinhan had 3 eyes and might have some kind of special bloodline and might have some unexpected gains with gravity training. Especially since Tien Shinhan was the only human among the human group that managed to master Kaioken during their 1-year training at King Kai's place. Even though Piccolo will have a much lower battle power for a long time until he fuses back with Kami, and if his base battle power is much higher, he should become even stronger after fusing with Kami. Raditz looked at Piccolo and thought about the future Super Namekian. But right now we don't have any reason to go to planet Namek, nor any good ways to form close relations to a skilled Dragon Clan Namekian to migrate to Earth and make Dragon Balls for Earth. Raditz thought. For now, it's best to not let Kami fuse with Piccolo so we end up without the Dragon Balls then. Raditz shook his head. The fight with Tolls was really crazy, but to think I didn't feel scared at all. This is the Saiyan blood side effect, right? They really are fearless warriors for a reason. Raditz then thought back to his almost dying state from the earlier battle. It was his first actual fight in the Dragon Ball world, yet he had simply rushed in so foolishly without fear, which did not seem logical. The good thing is that the battle won't be affected by nervousness or fear. But at the same time, I seem to turn into a hot-blooded musclehead. Raditz frowned. But then, again, it's not so dangerous as I thought. I got the Dragon Balls to wish me back if something really happens. Suddenly Raditz remembered the cheat in the Dragon Ball world. I really feel like punching Krillin and Gohan. Suddenly remembering about the Dragon Balls, Raditz had just heard them retell the whole story to how Tolls and them had come and even caused a forest fire which burnt down the whole forest nearby. Seeing how the forest was barren, Krillin and Gohan used the Dragon Ball to restore the forest. I really wanted to make a wish. Although I know the planet names like Namek and Yardrat. And that Frisia Forces database got their coordinates. But there is no way for me to go back to them and ask them for the coordinates. I had wanted to use the Dragon Balls to ask Shinran for help. Raditz sighed. Now he would have to wait for another year before the Dragon Balls were usable again. No, wait. I can ask King Kai for help. He always helped Goku finding planets too when Goku wanted to teleport there. Raditz remembered. I got plenty of time, so I should learn instant transmission first. Ahem. Should I bring Goku with me? Because the story has diverged from the original storyline, Goku never left Earth for Namek, and never boarded Ginyu Team's spacespod, so he will never end up in planet Yardrat. Teleporting would come in handy after all. Then I might as well bring Piccolo. Unfortunately, Gohan is too young, he would probably waste more time than necessary to learn it. With his talent, it's better for him to focus on training instead. I can always bring him to learn instant transmission in the future. Raditz planned in his mind. Raditz followed Goku and Gohan and stayed over at Ntapauzu for a while. He needed to teach Gohan to control his great ape transformation. Chi-Chi was really angry when Goku had just returned home after his training at King Kai, especially for brining away the 4-year-old Gohan at that time. Luckily Raditz had not followed them home at that time and managed to escape Chi-Chi's outburst. This time when they returned home, Chi-Chi warmly welcomed everyone. She also treated Raditz especially well, like a textbook wife treats her husband's family warmly. Raditz as her brother-in-law had a satisfying time staying over at Goku's home. With Goku and Raditz's guidance and help, Gohan only spent 3 transformations before he could control himself from attacking his friends. Only a week had passed since Raditz started living at Ntapauzu. It was likely his human part which made him have a much easier time from losing reason. Good. Now you're good to go. Even if you can't control your body, you won't endanger others either when you transform. Now you can continue training on your own. Raditz said to the naked Gohan. Goku, you're going to Bulma now? Raditz asked Goku, who seemed impatient to leave for West City. Yes. I'm really eager to have my own gravity chamber to train in. Let's have a fight after I've trained myself stronger. Goku said happily. Sounds good. I left my spacesuit over at her home when I first arrived on Earth. It's made with the ultra-stretchable materials specifically made for us Scions to transform into great apes without having to worry about our clothes getting destroyed. Can you ask Bulma or her father to make some training clothes with similar effects? It would really be useful for me and Gohan. Raditz said. No problem. See ya. Goku waved goodbye and flew toward West City. Ahem. Goku seems to have fully recovered from before. Raditz muttered after seeing Goku all happy-go-lucky again. Uncle Raditz, Daddy had a really long talk with Grandpa before he came back home. Grandpa said he never ever blamed Daddy and wished for him to live a happy life. Grandpa also said he would watch over us all from heaven. Gohan explained for Raditz after hearing his muttering. Chi-Chi really does seem like a really good housewife. Her cooking skills are great and she's a former martial artist with great strength for a human. So she can really handle cooking 3 meals for 3 hungry Saiyans every day without keeling over from exhaustion. The only weird trait she has is that she, who came from a martial art family, is so intent on having Gohan to become a scholar when he grows up. Raditz thought back to the week's experience. But home tutoring isn't a bad thing since there are no schools nearby in the mountain. But what's with the overscheduling? Gohan isn't allowed to play in the forest nor with Goku. For God's sake, he's just a 5-year-old kid. Instead, Chi-Chi wants Gohan to study until night after home tutoring. And even in his sleep, she has the sleep learning audio set with headphones for Gohan to wear while sleeping. Raditz facepalmed. Anyways, I tried yelling for King Kai. But I bet he's either sleeping or playing with his car. Raditz had tried yelling out in the middle of the mountain for King Kai's attention. But it didn't seem like King Kai noticed him at all. But that's also fine, I happen to need to replenish my training clothes. Might as well pay King Kai a visit. Raditz smiled and flew to the lookout. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.